Greetings, comrades, and welcome to the Eastern Border. Now, obviously, the main news today are the ones about Trump assassination, but I don't know that much about it. I have my reactions to it. But Alex from History Impossible does know that. So just as this is finished, we're going to sit down and we're going to record a assassination special because, we've been talking about assassinations for quite a while, and just recently we managed to talk about in one of the latest episodes he was on about how this might strike the United States and everything. So we'll get to that. I'll cover that because he just plopped in on our Discord. Links are everywhere. Please join our Discord if you can, and then you'll find out. But he just messaged me, and after this episode, I am recording a Trump assassination one with Alex from History Impossible. But for now, well, here's the news. But first, obviously, from the news, I do have to mention the Trump assassination because, some of you might not actually listen to the episode I'm going to record with Alex. So I'll start with the reactions to it in the Kremlin and in Kiev. See, the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, as according to Kremlin, was, quote, provoked by the internal atmosphere in the United States organized by the current White House administration. Dmitry Peskov stated, quote, "We do not think and do not believe that the attempt to eliminate presidential candidate Trump was organized by the current government, but the atmosphere that was created by this administration during the political struggle, the atmosphere around candidate Trump, provoked what America is facing today." This was by Dmitry Peskov, the press secretary and talking mustache of Putin. He said that on a briefing today. In the Interfax, quote, he stated, quote, "The United States political system is such that it has repeatedly in history presented the world with an example of violence within the country during political struggles. The current administration's style of work is such that they prefer to resolve all issues from a position of strength, including in world affairs. No one ever tries to seek compromises." Yeah, and Russia totally does, but whatever. Now, in essence, the violence has been transferred inside the country. The Kremlin spokesman added that Russia has always condemned and condemns any manifestations of violence in the course of political struggle. Wow, I really would have to remind people to go and look up my episode on Ryazan Sugar, which was about how Putin came to power, because it's very likely he caused terror attacks in his own country, but just saying. And he stated, quote, Peskov carries on, "We express our condolences to the family of the person killed in this attack. We sympathize and wish a speedy recovery to all those injured." He, by the way, added that Vladimir Putin has no plans to call Donald Trump after the assassination attempt. Ukrainian President Zelensky condemned the assassination attempt in a bit more clear words. Quote, "A terrible crime that can only be condemned and which demonstrates how serious the challenges to democracy are today globally. Violence in any form and nowhere should prevail. I am confident that America will meet this challenge with dignity. I wish Mr. Trump a speedy recovery, strength, and support for all those affected," he said to an address to the nation. But like I said, just after this episode, we're doing one which is going to take a bit while it's being edited, but we're doing one with Alex, and that's going to be on both of our shows. But, we'll get back to the Ukrainian news right now. But let me just do a bit of advertising. First of all, again, those of you who wanted the t-shirt, please go to theeasternborder.lv, pinned up on top the links for our merch store, where you can just get all the t-shirts and hats and all that stuff. And also you can become a member there, getting the same benefits as Patreons, because, they take less money than Patreon does. And it's a bit more easier that way, I suppose. But Patreon works, and I'm very, very thankful to everyone and anyone who decides to support the show on patreon.com/theeasternborder, or you can just, click the donate buttons on the easternborder.lv page, where, by the way, no ads on Patreon or on my homepage or on that fourth wall thing. Oh yeah, and one thing also, just a special thank you to everyone who really supports this show, because, guys, I really wouldn't be here without you, because currently times are weird and rough, and I'm working on my driver's license, and I just wanted to say special thanks to all of you. and will, of course, focus on. And if you have any questions, I will always respond to any direct messages on Discord. Links are everywhere. And if you can't find them, theeasternborder@gmail.com will respond to any and all emails. And now, well, back to the news. Oh, wait. And the article, I just sent it. It's going to be published, I think, even Monday, probably, maybe Tuesday. I don't exactly know, but the article's finally done due to all the bureaucracy issues. But now back to the news. Well, what has happened in these previous 24 hours? The Russian military shelled Mirnogorod and Liman in Donetsk region. According to local authorities, a shell hit a residential high-rise building in Mirnogorod. 1 person was killed and 6 were injured. 3 people were injured in Liman. In the Kursk region, in the city of Suya, Ukrainian drone attacked the TV tower, said the governor of the region. According to a news agency MASH, a closed gas station also came under the attack. The Telegram channel notes that there used to be 4 gas stations in the city, but since the beginning of July, they are all bombed. The Russian military has increased the intensity of attacks in the generation of Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region, according to another summary of the AFU General Staff. According to them, Russian troops have attacked 24 times in the direction of Pokrovsk since the beginning of the day, and 2 attacks were still ongoing at the time of the summary. Furthermore, the National Police of Ukraine published statistics of recorded crimes committed by the Russian military during this whole war thing. And those are accurate as of literally today, 14th of July, 2024. The message stated, quote, initiated criminal proceedings on the facts of committing crimes on the territory of Ukraine by servicemen of the armed forces of the Russian Federation and their accomplices. 121,945. For violation of the laws and customs of war, 106,596. Encroachment on the territorial integrity and inviolability of Ukraine, 9,279. Collaborator activity, 4,045. High treason, 261. Information about crimes against children is, sadly, separately indicated. Killed, 561. Wounded, 1,459. Missing, 1,961. Searched for, separately, by the way, 29,653. Deported to the Russian Federation, 19,546, out of whom, thankfully, 388 have been returned. Also, according to National Police, 101 criminal proceedings have been launched over the facts of sexual violence committed by Russian military. In Budi, Kharkiv region, the number of people injured when Russian troops struck a railway station has risen to 25. It is known that a 14-year-old girl, a 9-year-old boy, and 5 railroad workers are among the injured. 2 people were killed in the strike, including the head of the District Department of the State Emergency Situations Service, Artyom Kostrya. By the way, Vladimir Zelensky announced the signing of the new agreement on security guarantees with the Czech Republic and Slovenia. Ukraine is also working on an arrangement with Ireland. In eastern Ukraine, 2 H-59/H-69 guided aircraft missiles, those are like the X ones, it's just that it's an H in Russian, and 4 reconnaissance drones were shot down overnight. In Dnipropetrovsk region, there is damage in 3 neighborhoods, and a 67-year-old local resident was injured in the attack. The Russian Defense Ministry, for its part, reported that 1 Ukrainian drone was shot down overnight over the Bryansk region. But here comes, I suppose, everyone's favorite section about the Z idiots. See, there's this very interesting thing because yesterday, July 13th, the president of Belarus, well, so-called one, he's totally legitimate and just as a tyrant as Putin is, Alexander Lukashenka, said about the elimination of tension on the border with Ukraine and the withdrawal of troops there. The concentration of Ukrainian forces in the areas bordering Belarus had been discussed since June 18th. Head of the Belarusian KGB, Ivan Teretel, added that the Ukrainian side behaved with restraint. Now, why is this important? Because the whole Z community is just up in arms on this. Z authors accuse Batyka, the common word for Lukashenko, of betrayal, bigamy, polygyny, and reasonably note down that now Ukraine has the opportunity to send troops from the border to the front. Well, Belta agency, the Belarusian news agency, quotes the words of President of Belarus. After a certain work, the Ukrainians have withdrawn their armed forces and additional troops, which they transferred to our border, from the border and generally withdrawn from the zone of the Belarusian-Ukrainian border. So, now we get amazing comments. Military informant writes, now, in the case of withdrawal of all or most of the Belarusian military, as well as after public statements about the absence of threats to each other, the enemy, that is, Ukrainians, may get an opportunity to free some part of their army formations from useless idle time on the border with Belarus for active involvement in the zone of ongoing hostilities. Belarusian Silovik, a very pro-Putin channel, writes, quote, the Defense Ministry immediately begins to withdraw the troops on the southern borders to places of permanent deployment. This was stated by Belarusian Defense Ministry and this kind of chief guy, Herkin. But here we get to the real amazing Z comments. Alex Parker returns, writes, quote, apparently Lukashenko entered into a separatist collusion with the Ukrainians, which allowed them, they use the horrible word, the hohols, which I'm just not going to use, to release reserves to buy the offensive into the Kharkiv region. In fact, the storming of Volchansk and Liptsoy, Popa's reliable ally, sided sharply with the Ukrainians. And why am I not surprised? A channel, Dornf, writes, everything about these news is perfect. Now one mustachioed idol of millions will be begging for Minsk, because stabilность, or stability. In the end, it won't work out, but why Moscow can't do it all becomes clearer. Until the thunder rumbles a couple of times in a row, the man will not cross himself. The channel known as No Pasaran writes, always been too asked. We'll sing and dance. Skorikov from the alt-right section, he literally calls himself alt-right on his Telegram channel, writes just amazing things. Lukashenko is playing for devious peacekeepers, he uses peacekeepers in air quotes, with his statement about withdrawal of troops from the borders with anti-Russia, which is just amazing how he calls this. Unless it is an informational cover for the opposite, for which there is practically no hope. Such words, and even more so actions, undermine trust and reanimate the painful discourse of polygyny. Amazing. Romanov Light writes in his Telegram channel, in essence, the AFU got an opportunity to redeploy the freed forces to the Kharkiv direction. Earlier there, they had already transferred almost all the reserves. Thank you, Batka. And the good Nazi dude, who's, by the way, illegally in the war, because I'll make a separate episode on him, because I've discovered a lot about this guy. 13th, who's a total scumbag, he writes the most blasted thing on this. Quote, I think we've all been fucking sold out. Why the fuck did you fuckers start this then? Where are your special military operation goals? Fucking hell. It's just music to my ears. But there's still more news, not exactly related to Trump, about basically the United States. Because, sometimes when the Z authors write something interesting, as most of my audience is from the States, I like to pick something for you. See, Z author Andrei Medvedev comes to an unexpected conclusion. No, seriously, for a very patriotic author. It turns out that the American system of governing their country is not tailored to a particular president, but is able to function effectively regardless who sits on the White House. Quote, we can laugh at Biden, we can make memes, we can jokingly discuss the degree of his sanity. However, it is worth noting that Biden's dementia affects the quality of work of the American government and its efficiency a little less than nothing. That is, Biden's dementia does not lead to the general dementia of the state machine. It just works and works and works. That is why it's a bad thing to snigger at the self-propelled grandfather on punch cards. It's a form of complacency, and it should be said that all turbo-patriotic authors, Telegram channels, and networks use this technique to make fun of Biden. Listening to jokes about Grandpa Biden is, of course, enjoyable for many. But here's the thing. Biden may be just, totally unreliable, but Atacoms are flying around our cities. And then, Grandpa, in moments of enlightenment, will give a lot of people a head start. He's angry and stubborn. He's lost a lot of things in his life. His wife in a car accident, his son, his career ran down the drain. He's fallen, gotten up, and moved on. And I'm not sure Biden is so out of touch with politics and decision-making. Therefore, authors who over-empathize readers' attention to the old man's fuck-ups are doing a pretty bad job. They mislead Russian people into the criminal delusion that the American government is weak and even ready for some kind of negotiations. This is like studies of military experts about the frightened crew of the Donald Cook. Yeah, that's a sort of, he tries to be funny about Donald Trump, but it doesn't really work this day. Also, Z guys, even more of them, comment on yet another successful Ukrainian drone strike on a Russian oil depot. The conclusion, I'll just give you a free spoiler here, is just the same. It is obvious that the Russian state is unable to solve the problem, and that private companies should pay for their own air defense. Quote, the footage shows a drone strike on our old oil depot by the AFU. They bought useless anti-drone rifles for the security guards. They might as well have bought them children's water guns. The effectiveness is the same. Only physical impact from the drone can shoot it down. But to do that, you have to allow people to shoot it. Disgraceful. That was channel Turned on Z War. Goodwill Revenge writes, quote, Spanish shame. These guns and oil depots, oil refineries, and generally deep behind the lines are completely useless against the birds used by the Ukrainians. They can be shoved up the guards' asses to make it more convenient for them to sit on their smoke bricks. Well, and those who procured them there. Troika writes, a shotgun for 440,000 rubles, that's $1,400 approximately, and a guard with a salary of 40,000 rubles, about $400 per month, as an element of an echelon defense of assets worth of tens of billions of rubles. It looks like a joke. They will sit and wait until the last minute to see if they get away with it. And it won't. And then we have Roman Saponkov. He writes a long post usually, but this one's kind of a bit of a special thing. Quote, speaking of the low intellectual level of people with money, footage of the attack on our oil depot has appeared. The footage shows the barrier button operators, i.e. the guards. They have been given anti-drone guns which they use to poke at flying Ukrainian drones and then pull their heads into their shoulders when the drone pokes into an oil tank. There are no claims to the men, they were told. They do it and do not abandon their post. The issue is with the men who fate has somehow rewarded with an oil terminal. You just need to have some knowledge and outlook or ask at least a couple of smart people to realize that winged Ukrainian drones are generally problematic to shoot down by REB at the final stage. They have to be deflected from the trajectory much before that, because due to their wings and internal controller, they can fly tens of kilometers in a straight line even when blind. And they have an interference-protected GPS, and it will be able to fly not in a straight line but maneuver. You will blind them with REBs. It will safely fly over you, jump out of the interference beam, catch GPS, and continue flying according to the flight task. Or maybe you put GPS on it with REB and it flies by GSM modem, switching between cell towers of cellular internet. Or maybe Starlink is getting there too, which can be jammed only by a REB installation the size of 3 Kamaz trucks. And this guy with a slingshot, he has no theoretical chance of jamming such an industrial thing. The best REB for an oil depot is a ZU-23. Now you've read that and you know it. But we have an efficient owner, the owner of the terminal. He has tens of billions of rubles for an oil terminal, but he doesn't have the brains to put these couple of 3 kilobytes of text, which will fit on a floppy disk about 900 times. An efficient owner can pay money to experts, and they will draw it for him even in pictures. But, well, an efficient owner is not a pedal-powered sucker paying money to stooges. That again, comrades, was Roman Saponkov. But yeah, that's it for today. But again, like I said, I am just going to record with Alex very soon. And that's going to be edited and you'll get that one soon. But I hope that you enjoyed today's news. До свидания, товарищи. And remember, happiness is mandatory.